Did the Toronto Blue Jays make a fatal mistake trading away Teoscar Hernandez in exchange for Adam Macko and Eric Swanson, who is currently in AAA pitching for the Buffalo Bisons? Teoscar Hernandez just got selected to his second All-Star team and won the Home Run Derby last night, and Swanson has not been with the Major League club for months now. So we'll break down that trade and whether or not it was a success for the Blue Jays on this episode of 3 Up, 3 Down. What's up, everybody? Welcome into 3 Up, 3 Down. I'm your host, Peter Vryonis. Today we're going to be talking about the Teoscar Hernandez trade, and we're going to revisit it from a Blue Jays perspective. Now, just a couple of years ago, the GM Ross Atkins traded away Teoscar Hernandez in exchange for Eric Swanson and Adam Macko, who is a minor league pitcher right now, having a pretty decent season as well. Now, Eric Swanson, we know the story there if you're a Blue Jays fan. He was instrumental in getting the team to the playoffs last season. He was one of the more consistent relievers in the game of baseball, and he just fell off a cliff this season completely. But before we get into the video, make sure to hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, and give us your thoughts on this trade from your perspective now. I mean, maybe last season there was an overwhelming win from the Blue Jays' perspective, but now this year, I think it's looking pretty rough when we're looking at it from that lens. So let me know your thoughts on that, but let's just take a look at Teoscar Hernandez's stats for this season. He's got 19 home runs, which would be by far and away the most on the Blue Jays this year. A 125 OPS plus, which would be near the top as well, probably right behind Vladdy for the team lead, and Spencer Horwitz if you want to add him in there, even though he hasn't been up for too long. But the Jays need power and they need offense, and they haven't been getting that from anybody besides Vladdy this season. And having an extra 19 home runs in that lineup probably would have solved a lot of problems, and it makes it even worse in the fact that Eric Swanson is now pitching in AAA and he's not doing well down there. I don't know if there's any pathway for him coming back to the major leagues this season. He hasn't looked good whatsoever, and it's unfortunate because last season Swanson was instrumental in getting the Blue Jays to the playoffs. They won 89 games, and they would not have been there had it not been for Eric Swanson and him locking down the 8th inning right in front of Jordan Romano. He was one of the more consistent relievers in baseball, pretty much from game 1 to 162, and pitched a ton of innings for the Blue Jays as well. They needed someone like Eric Swanson this season, and he just wasn't able to deliver. Now, whether that's because of the stuff that happened with his son early in the offseason, and he just wasn't able to recover mentally, that's entirely possible. And now he's dealing with some stuff, and we don't really know the latest on Eric Swanson. So the one silver lining that I would say the Blue Jays could take out of this is that Swanson is going to be able to be on the team for another few years because of his control time and his service time. So Teoscar Hernandez was an impending free agent when the Blue Jays traded him away to Seattle in exchange for Swanson and Macko. And he had an okay year in Seattle. It wasn't his best offensive season, and that team has struggled offensively. But now in a loaded Los Angeles Dodgers lineup with the likes of Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman, Shohei Ohtani, Will Smith, Teoscar Hernandez has been one of the standouts in that lineup, and it's been great to see. I was rooting for him yesterday in the Home Run Derby, which he did win. Teoscar Hernandez has become the first Dodger ever to win the Home Run Derby. Pretty surprising. Didn't know that. Extend this man ASAP. So you can see that Dodger fans are pretty happy with the way that he has performed, and we know that Teoscar has his deficiencies. He's not a superstar hitter by any means, but what he is a power hitting threat and someone that can drive the ball out of the ballpark pretty much on any mistake pitch. He crushes fastballs. He struggles on off-speed pitches low and away, and I think that's the way to attack him. But when he's locked in the way that he has been this season, I think it's really tough for opposing pitchers to go out and get outs on him. Like, look at those stats. A 261 batting average is pretty much that's the career norm for Teoscar Hernandez. 62 RBIs, that's a big number, and a 475 slug. That's a really good number right there. So he's really close to his career averages here, maybe slightly above, but he has an 802 career OPS, and that's what he has this season, a 125 OPS plus on the year with the Dodgers, and he's He's an electrifying presence in a lineup, and I don't have any highlights to show you guys, but when he was with the Blue Jays, I know that he drove some fans crazy with his defensive lapses and his base running mistakes, but make no mistake about it, his power was off the charts, and he was able to put up 25 to 30 home runs on a pretty consistent basis for the Blue Jays before they decided to trade him away. Now, he was an impending free agent, so would he have re-signed in Toronto? I mean, if you're looking at his attitude and just the way that he loved playing in Canada, I think he would have if the number was right. Now, the Dodgers gave him over $20 million this year. I don't know if the Blue Jays were willing to reach that figure there. There were rumors about him coming back in the offseason, but it just didn't come to fruition. And now he's mashing in the middle of that Dodgers order, and the Blue Jays have a 688 team OPS, which is terrible. It's one of their worst since the 1980s. So they've been historically bad offensively by their standards, and their pitching hasn't been good either. And a lot of that could be due to Eric Swanson not being healthy and not being a reliable option out of the bullpen. So let me know in the comments down below, was it a success for the Toronto Blue Jays to make this trade? I lean on the side of no right now. But last season, if you were to ask me, I would have said it was an overwhelming success because Eric Swanson was arguably the best pitcher on the Blue Jays last season. He was fantastic. And if it wasn't for him in the bullpen, if it wasn't for him being able to be that setup man to Jordan Romano, then I don't know if the Blue Jays even make the playoffs. And seriously, like, that's how good he was. That's how fantastic the Blue Jays bullpen was last season. And they didn't blow many games like they are this year. They were probably the most consistent component on the Blue Jays last season, and just a complete 180 for the team this year. So let me know in the comments down below, would you make that trade again, knowing what you know for the past two seasons? And if you don't, I think we're going to have to accept the reality that the Blue Jays don't make the playoffs last year because Teoscar Hernandez did not have a great season by his standards offensively. But that'll wrap it up for this episode of 3 Up 3 Down. Thank you guys so much for making it this far. Again, make sure to hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, and give me your thoughts on the Toronto Blue Jays trade that happened just a couple of years ago. It was Teoscar Hernandez, and coming the Blue Jays' way was Adam Macko, who has been pretty good in Double-A ball with the New Hampshire Fisher Cats, and Eric Swanson, who has totally fallen off a cliff this season. I hope everything is okay with him mentally because he had a bit of a roller coaster in spring training, and he had to leave the team for a while and could never really get going once he rejoined them. But that'll wrap it up. Thank you guys again for making it this far, and thank you to Baseball Town as well for supporting this podcast. Would not be possible without them. Check out the website for the latest on baseball equipment, softball equipment. Got you covered, whether it's gloves, batting gloves, cleats, bats. We got you for that. So check out baseballtown.ca, the absolute best when it comes to baseball equipment at the most competitive prices. But until baseball resumes, it'll be a while. Enjoy the All-Star break, guys. I will see you tomorrow.